And good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here, and I'd like to thank Emma for the opportunity to talk to you today a little bit about our programme called the Just Transition Tourism Learning Network Programme. My name is Amanda Horan. I'm manager with the Enterprise Development Team here in Fáilte, Ireland, and I'm working very closely with my colleagues, collaborating across all of the different schemes we have as part of the funding mechanisms that Terence spoke to earlier. Okay, so just to give you a flavour of what we're going to cover today, I'll just give you a quick introduction to the Regenerative Tourism and Placemaking Scheme, overarching scheme, and within it then there's sub-schemes, of which I'm going to speak to you about then today in terms of Scheme F, which is the Just Transition Tourism Learning Network Programme. And then Terence asked me to give you a brief overview of Scheme B as well, which I'm not directly involved in, but I have just a few slides on that. It's related to funding supports for small and medium enterprises for grants, and then any questions and answers or discussion afterwards. So as Terence referenced earlier on, there's two areas and actions under the EU Just Transition Fund that we are involved in Fáilte, Ireland. The first one is Action 2.3 under that transformation of the landscape, and that's related to the network of trails, the 30 million that Terence spoke about that we're working with there on Trail Development Scheme, and we're doing that in partnership with Bord na Móna. And then the other scheme, or the other action 1.1, was around economic diversification, and we have a total fund, as Terence mentioned, of 38 million in this space, of which we have it divided between a number of smaller scheme initiatives. So the first one is the Investment Grant Aid Scheme for Private and Community SMEs, and I have a few slides at the end to speak to that. The other two then, C and D, are strategic partnerships that we are doing in conjunction with the local authorities and the 5 state agencies. And then the Tourism Activator Scheme, which we're running with the local authorities. And in actual fact, I think we have a few tourism activators on the call here today. And then finally, Scheme F, which I'm really going to speak to, is the Tourism Learning Network Programme. So what is the Tourism Learning Network Programme? This is a programme that's really designed to build capability of people engaged with or entering or considering entering the tourism business development space. So it's really around building competencies and guiding accessible and inclusive development to improve environmentally responsible practices, enhance their digital performance, and also enhance their commercial performance. It will also seek to look at driving business growth. So for business applicants to this programme, whether you're a business starting in the tourism industry or you're an existing business that's looking to diversify or grow, we will support you around driving business growth, visitor numbers, and contributing then to jobs and the local economy in that way. Another objective of the programme is around the whole area of sustainability and accessibility. And by accessibility, I mean inclusion for everybody, not just those with physical disabilities, because sometimes when you say accessibility, that's what people tend to think about. But it's really designed to guide sustainable and accessible business goals, behaviours, and investment for a greener future and a more inclusive future, benefiting environment, of course, and the communities in which tourism exists in terms of this territory. And finally, then, to really facilitate collaboration. So, you know, a huge amount of business learning happens by peer-to-peer learning, and the programme will really allow that and support and facilitate that collaboration and shared experience as people move through their business development plans and their learning journey, and hopefully will develop lasting relationships and collaboration in that way, because that's really one of the fundamental building blocks of what tourism is built on, is that support and cross-promotion and selling. So looking at the eligibility of the Tourism Learning Network programme, it's open to existing and tourism enterprises and new to tourism enterprises, I should say, and that's further broken down whether or not you are a commercial business, not-for-profit, a charity enterprise, or even a social and community tourism enterprise that is involved with tourism or supporting visitor information and tourism. Open also to public agency partners and their staff and agents. So they're the public agency partners we are working with, and then also the individual applicant. So we have also opened this programme to potential staff of Bord na Móna and ESB networks that would have been involved in peat production or fossil fuel electricity generation that would consider now transitioning out of that industry and into a career in tourism. So we'll be making it available to those applicants as well. There is further information on all the eligibility on our business website, but just to say to you, we are looking at 3 intakes for this programme. So the indicative timeframes, we are open currently for intake 1, which opened on the 11th of January and closes, not unlike our previous speaker from Pubble's date, the 22nd of February. It seems to be D-Day for a lot of people. So that's our first intake, and our programme will commence then in April. The programme each time will run for about 18 to 24 months. The duration of it will depend on the extent to which the participant chooses to engage with the programme. So I'll speak to that in a minute, but it's quite a flexible learning programme and designed to allow you tailor it to your individual professional development needs or your business development needs. The second intake then we'll be running expressions of interest in late autumn with a view to the programme starting then in Q4 around November. And then the third and final intake to the programme we expect to do commencing in February, March, with the programme commencing in May 2025. And that third intake will really only have access to 18 months of the programme. So the others will really have an opportunity to avail of the programme over a slightly longer period of 24 months. In terms of applying for the programme, we have made the process as simple as we can. There's very few eligibility criteria required around it. It's really around whether or not you are currently employed and living in the territory, and you either have a new tourism business that you're starting, or an existing tourism business you're starting, or you're one of those individuals that I spoke about that may be transitioning out of ESB networks or Bord na Móna and considering a career in tourism. But you may also be an applicant of a community tourism enterprise, and also then a member of any of our national agency partners that I spoke about there earlier in terms of Bord na Móna, Waterways Ireland, OPW, Quilcha, etc. So the prospectus is on our website, and there's a link on this slide when you get these slides available to you to the programme. And we recommend that you read the prospectus in full before you complete a simple expression of interest form, which will guide your application. The expression of interest form is actually not hugely demanding. It just requires you to validate some information about yourself and also and the status of your business if you are a business applicant, and then asks you some critically important questions around really your motivation to come to the programme and what you'd like to get out of it. And the prospectus also gives you guidance on the pillars of learning. So we have 5 pillars of learning in this programme, and it asks you kind of to consider what are your initial thoughts on which pillars you'd like to be involved in, but I'll speak more about that in a minute. In terms of the launch of the scheme and the recruitment timeline, so applicants, as I said, submits a simple expression of interest EOI form. The form is about 3 pages long. When we were running it ourselves and some of our team were testing it, it takes actually about no more than 10 to 15 minutes to complete. So very accessible, and I'm glad to say we have a strong indication of applications already in. So we're open at the moment until the 22nd of February, and then we will move into the evaluation of the expressions of interest to determine eligibility, and then subsequent to that, offers will be made to eligible applicants. So we would hope to do that and complete that by late Q1. And then the participant will be asked to formally accept the offer by registering to the programme on our industry trade portal. And they will receive access then to a learning needs diagnostic tool, which is a simple online survey that will actually help them gain further insight into their priority learning needs. Because I think when people start to look at what the program can offer in terms of learning, it'll probably be a lot of areas that will be applicable to everybody. But we do recognise people are trying to run businesses and manage lives outside of investment in their own development, whether that be in their business development and their own professional skills. So this will really guide the person to understand and recognise what are the priority learning areas they want to focus on, and the extent to which they can commit to engaging with the programme. And I'll speak a little bit more about that commitment when I'm speaking about the programme pillars in a second. The programme will then commence, we expect, in April, and we will begin with a mandatory in-person face-to-face day that we will run in the territory. The details and location of that will be confirmed a little later. So what is the programme all about? Well, there's 5 key learning pillars within the programme, and it's not a mandatory requirement that people come in and engage with all 5 pillars. In actual fact, we wouldn't anticipate people would have the bandwidth to do all 5 pillars, and that's why we use the diagnostic. So the whole idea of this program is it's as flexible as it needs to be, and it's as responsive as you need it to be for where you're at in your learning journey in tourism. Whether you're a startup business, whether you're an existing business looking to diversify or grow or step change your offering, or whether you're somebody involved in community tourism and I want to learn and understand a little more about that. And in many respects, you know, there's probably a lot of businesses in the territory that we would see would really benefit from aspects of this, particularly even in terms of, you know, community and social enterprises that may be involved with visitors, maybe not in a structured, targeted way at the moment, but what we call businesses that benefit from the accidental tourist, if we were to call it, bearing in mind that this is a relatively early development tourism geography for us in Fáilte, Ireland. So what we would see is really key benefits there in terms of the understanding tourism pillar, that we would have a number of courses and modules under that pillar that's really geared for helping people better understand the tourism landscape, things like understanding visitor needs and motivations, how to build a career in tourism or how to recruit and employ people into tourism, and really starting to understand, you know, how I need to go from a business that gets tourists accidentally to maybe a business that now starts to target tourists. Because you may be, you know, a country cafe that in actual fact, all of a sudden now with the investment in trails that's going to happen, you will be in a prime location to service visitors who will be coming to use those trails. So your circumstances and your geography and the development work that's happening around you may also put you in the picture for targeting visitors and tourists. So it's important to have that understanding of that tourism landscape and how visitors, you know, consider, plan and manage their visitations and what motivates them to come into your area. So you can use that understanding of motivations to really tailor your offering, which may be an offering that you are targeting predominantly to your local area and your local community and residents, but now in actual fact you see an opportunity to package that in a way, or package an element of that in a way to target visitors. So that's the understanding tourism pillar. The business for growth pillar is actually very much focused around really ramping up your sales and your marketing. But before you do that, it's very much focused around understanding, you know, finance and investment opportunities, but also then understanding how you take a product or service and package it for tourism. So that's what we call about developing your value proposition and presenting that and pricing that and understanding how to do that for tourists and then how to bring it to the market. So in other words, all the sales channels that you can use to bring to the market and reach those tourists, whether that be directly B2C or through an intermediary in terms of B2B. In terms of the digital and tech pillar, then that focuses very much around understanding where you're at in terms of your digital footprint now. And there might be people coming into this program that have no digital footprint. but may consider maybe, setting up or managing their social media channels to target visitors. Or maybe it'll be working with the business and engaging with some of our courses in here. And our courses are short courses, so they're all kind of aimed at about 2 to 3 hours online or in person, half days. But the idea here on digital and technology will be to help you map that digital footprint and where you want to go with that and building your capability. So if it's building your understanding of how do I determine a needs map for a new website I'm going to build, how do I understand better about search engine optimization, how do I use my social media channels to grow visitors and reach more new visitors and people. So, and also we'll be introducing the concept of artificial intelligence in digital marketing as well, because with the emergence at the moment, the explosion of artificial intelligence, there's some really great tools in digital marketing now that makes all of the marketing work you're doing much easier and much simpler for businesses that don't have time and necessarily don't have major expert marketing skills in their own business. There's really brilliant shortcuts available to you, so we can access all of that information on the programs. And then on the accessible tourism for all, this is really around helping businesses understand what it means to be inclusive for visitors. And this is not about determining can you be inclusive for everybody, because inclusion needs are changing all the time, but it's really around understanding what have I got right now that's accessible? Who am I accessible to? How do I better tell my story about what my offering is to be accessible? And then in that pillar as well, we will also guide businesses around understanding the principles of universal design. So if you are doing investment in your business or are doing investment and improvements in your business, how do I improve things with low cost, no cost ways of improvement? But if I am going to invest in infrastructural developments, then what type of things and how do I work with universal design principles around that? And then building the ability to present your information effectively online and offline for visitors, so you can be considered in their planning of their trip. So really great information on that pillar, and I would recommend that as well for everybody that is in any way involved in tourism, because it's really, really critical. And then finally, our sustainable tourism practices learning pillar will guide you across the development of your business in a sustainable way, environmentally sustainable, but also looking at the principles of regenerative tourism and how you can probably bring that into the business goals you have for your business, what's your vision for the business, and how you work with your teams to build that sustainable practices and behaviors day to day, as well as the investment opportunities around that. So really great. And we'll be looking at things like, biodiversity opportunities, circular economy, and all of that great learning, and sharing some really great insights and expertise. In terms of the program time commitment, it is going to require a minimum investment coming into the program of 50 hours, but there's huge flexibility in that for you in terms of how much you engage with and how well you spread out that 50 hours. So as I said, most of our courses are driven online, but there are some in-person event days as well. But the courses online are about 2 hours, but you've got to allow for the fact as well that in actual fact, when you do a course, you need time to implement that learning to your business. So that's why we're saying a minimum of 50 hours. It really is about 50% of structured learning and 50% then to allow you implement that learning. And then for those that really want to dig deep, so whether you want to go very broad across your learning pillars or you want to select and deep dive a lot of the courses under 1 or 2 pillars, the choice is yours. But if you do up to 90 hours of the program, so about 50 hours structured learning and 40 hours around implementation and engagement with our online forum, you will have access to a certification option for the program as well, which is really very appealing for a business that wants to be able to demonstrate to its visitors going forward it's made this investment in itself and its business and its staff team, or also somebody seeking to develop and enhance their career in tourism. And this is a great opportunity as well to have this on your CV going forward. So what can the participants expect? It's not about all online online learning. There's going to be tailored content. There's going to be flexible learning, as I said. Some of the learning will be structured, but you will also have access to a learning management system that allows you to do some self-paced learning as well. So you can do it at a time and a day that suits you. It's not all structured, timetabled courses. And then there's inspirational speakers, great good practice case studies that we'll be putting out there. A lot of those will be delivered in-person events that we'll be running in the territory as well. There's all that learning and networking that we'll be driving in the pings. So there'll be as much learning from each other as there will be in structured learning. And then those live interactive action learning sessions, as I said. And our action learning sessions are very interactive. So we do suggest to people when they are coming into those sessions that in actual fact, you have your camera on, you know, and you have audio on, because we do breakouts, activities and everything. So we've really brought the classroom to life in the virtual environment for those courses. And then finally, reflective practice and online discussion forum is a huge part of that journey as well. So a lot of a mix of, you know, ways in which to engage in the learning. It doesn't all happen in a structured, you know, screen classroom based. In terms of the program launch event, it will be in running as an in-person event. It will be a mandatory requirement to attend the launch for all participants, because there's really important introductions and networking there, best practice case studies and inspirational speakers. As I mentioned, we will be introducing you to all the learning pillars and getting a taster session. So that first day will help you then to determine and select which learning pillars you want to go ahead with, and how many, you know, which courses you want to look at in the first year, and we can revisit that in the second year. And then there's also going to be an introduction to the online discussion forum, so you get the opportunity to start, you know, having conversations and discussions and hearing from inspirational ideas and case studies throughout your journey after you leave that first day. And we'll be covering 2 of our 3 mandatory modules in that first day around the introduction to accessibility and inclusion and the introduction to sustainable practices. So even if you don't choose those 2 learning pillars to pursue, you will actually have at least a basic understanding in those 2 topics coming out of day 1 of the programme. In terms of the communication plan for this scheme, just to say we have with our communications team in Fáilte, Ireland, thanks to Trudy Killian and the team there, we have completed some media press releases there, and there's local and regional radio interviews ongoing at the moment. So you may have heard 1 or 2 of those. We also do an industry e-zine to our existing business database in Fáilte, Ireland, and that's a monthly e-zine for all our news in Fáilte, Ireland. That's issuing on the 1st of February. Again, if you're not on our Fáilte Ireland e-zine database, you can go to Fáilte Ireland and sign up for our trade portal and access those communications. We also have B2B e-coms issuing this week to existing applicants and EOIs in the other schemes to let them know about Scheme F. And just to say, this Learning Network programme, you can engage with it whether or not you are going forward for funding in some of the other schemes. So you don't have to be accessing funding to engage with this programme. We're doing an email communication as well to elected representatives that has gone out to senators and TDs in the Just Transition region, and we thank them for their support and creating the awareness on that. And then we're doing organic and paid social media. So on our LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook pages, you will see some posts running at the moment about the event, and please, we encourage you to repost them to your friends and family and people you know that this programme might be relevant to going forward. We also, as I said, have some tourism activators on the call here, and tourism activators are going to be helping us within their work in the local authority and in the territory to drive the communications with LEOs and leader companies, and I think we do have a few leader company representatives on the call here. So you will be receiving communications through the tourism activators about this program, so you can potentially let your company members and client databases know about the program. And then our tourism activators will also be accessing town hall meetings and community and social enterprise meetings and networks to let them know about it as well. And of course, today we have this public audience with you with Emma, which we're appreciative of. So just before I finish, Terence did ask me to say a little bit about Scheme B. It's not an area I'm directly involved in, so if you have queries on this, I would recommend that you send them through to our website on the information that I'll share now shortly, because I'm not qualified to answer much questions on this one. But in terms of Scheme B, what it is, it's an investment grant aid for private and community small to medium enterprises. And under this scheme, there's 5 project categories that can be considered. So there is the development and enhancement of sustainable visitor experiences. So that might be where you want to, enhance some interpretation for your visitors, if you have a visitor experience or an activity provider, whatever. There's also grants available for the development of sustainable and low carbon tourist accommodation. There is capital project funding available for planning and design of projects. So we recognize some projects might have a longer development time and might require planning. So it might require some costs associated with the planning and design stage of those projects, because it may not be possible to get the project, approved, planned and built within the timeline of this project. And then there is grants for investment in digital transformation, which is investment in technology improvements for your business. But within that program as well, that also comes with in-depth capability building as part of that program. And then finally, the category 5 is accessibility enhancements to provide for more inclusive visitor experience. So within Scheme B, it has its own application form, and it has an EOI process, first of all, and then if you're approved at EOI process, you're asked to go forward to full application. You can be considered for a multiple applications under this scheme. So it's not about choosing, 1 or 3 or 5. You can put in for a combined one. So just in terms of guidelines for Scheme B application, on our website, there's a really great brochure there on our guidelines. There's also a guide there to help you fill out your expression of interest form. And then there's some overarching information about the principles and the objectives of the EU Just Transition and Placemaking Scheme, and really so that you see how your project will support the ambition we have for this territory at this exciting time. So more information, as I said, on all of our schemes under our Fáilte Ireland website /Just Transition. And if you have any direct queries, you can email them to justtransition@fáilteireland.ie. And there's some great FAQs on there as well, if you have any need for those. So that's it from me. I hope that was helpful. Thank you.